So from our communities, we're expanding our focus, looking more ecosystems, bringing in the non-living parts, and from there all the way up to the whole biosphere, life on Earth as a whole. So, not surprisingly, ecology focuses a lot on ecosystems. And as we mentioned, this is the community plus the abiotic components around: the water, the air, the rock, temperature, things like that. So, focusing on ecosystems, as we've been seeing for communities, for populations, a lot of the interactions, how things cycle through the system. Ecosystems, like we know for communities and populations, where do you draw the line between one ecosystem and another? Well, there are many different scales. The whole biosphere can be seen as one huge ecosystem, and then we can divide it into many smaller ecosystems all the way down to the tiny ecosystem of microbiota in just a drop of water. Here's an example. We've got a beaver pond, and there's lots of different things present here. We have air, we have water, there are rocks, we've got different slopes going from cliffs to more gradual, a little flatter here. We have various types of plants. I don't see the beaver itself, but obviously it's around. We have evidence of the beaver, and of course the beaver obviously is affecting the plants. It is eating some, also maybe chewing some down to make the dam, even doesn't eat them so much. So lots of things are going on here. Energy. All living things need energy. And as we saw quite early on in the class, thermodynamics, as you use energy, some of that ends up as waste and cannot be reused for other things. So all living things and systems of living things require new energy coming in. And so energy flows through one way. It is being used, goes along, and then eventually becomes unavailable for further use. Starting out as radiant energy from sunshine, the sun is making matter into energy through thermonuclear fusion. Also, you have the chemical energy that comes a little bit from the interior of the Earth, relatively unimportant in most ecosystems, but there are some, especially in deep ocean, where that becomes important, or very deep underground. And also from organisms living or dead that come into it from another ecosystem. For example, bits of stuff sinking down from shallow water into deeper ocean areas. Shallow water, you got light, you can have photosynthesis. Lots of things growing there. Deep, it's dark, can't have photosynthesis, and so the deep ocean, things are largely depending ultimately for the base of the food chain on stuff that sank down from above. Out of all the sunshine coming to the Earth, a lot of it is not used by photosynthesis, only less than 1%, but that is the base of almost all life on Earth. Okay, so photosynthesis, we're building energy-rich molecules such as sugars, and then plants did all the work, and we come along and eat that plant and use that for ourselves, cellular respiration. We break up the energy-rich molecules and use that to make our ATP, and then the ATP powers the reactions in the cell, especially the anabolism, the ones that are building stuff. Also moving things, there are lots of things that need the ATP. So energy goes through lots and lots and lots of steps. Each step, we are losing some of that energy as waste heat and is no longer available to use. So at every point we're losing useful energy, we need more energy coming in. And conveniently, the sun is providing that. Here's an example of the general idea. The sun's producing energy. This energy gets captured by our photosynthesizers, the producers, and so on up our food chain. And things that die, waste, then are decomposed. All of these are producing the waste heat there. Now, how do we classify things? Do we call decomposers a type of consumer or call it a separate category? Depends on just how you're thinking about it. So you get some variation there. Consumers, we have various categories. Herbivores, eating plants or algae. Carnivores, eating herbivores, or for that matter, other carnivores or omnivores or whatever other types of animals we have. Omnivores will eat most anything that's available. Detrivores, eating dead or waste organic material. Decomposers, again, are breaking down. So decomposer, thinking more of the breakdown approach like a fungus or bacteria would be doing. Detrivore is more what we think of an animal doing, actively eating these leftover dead bits. Again, in an actual environment, we typically have lots of different types of living things. And so we have not a simple chain, but a relatively complex web where different types of organisms are feeding on several possible food types and have multiple possible predators, leading to a complex interaction like shown in the diagram here. And even here, they've made arrows basically just for most of the animals. They haven't included a lot of the plants in the interaction shown here. So the webs can get quite complex when you look into detail. And because of this, different levels will affect each other. Even though, for example, the fox is not munching on oak leaves, if the oak isn't doing well, that's fewer nuts for the squirrel and chipmunk that the fox would want to eat. So things affecting one level are going to affect the other levels, even if it's not a direct, immediate connection. When we look at the total amount of things, this shape is typically a pyramid. Number of organisms, biomass, energy. The base of our pyramid will be the producers, and then we have the herbivores next up, then the herbivore eating carnivores, and so on, making our pyramid there. Again, do we measure the amount of stuff based on how many, the numbers, or biomass, how much stuff, or the amount of energy? Now, numbers, that gets a little messy. Sometimes you may have more herbivores than producers. How would that work? Well, if, say, our producers is a set of maple trees and our consumers are a bunch of insects, how many bugs can all be eating one maple tree? A lot. So we could certainly have more bugs than maple trees, but the total amount of bug, if we add up their mass, is going to be a lot smaller than the total for the tree. Likewise, our energy is going to be decreasing as we go up. Typically for mass and energy, each layer is only about 10% of the one below. If we have on the order, say, of 100 deer living in an area, that would only be enough to support about 10 wolves going up the food chain. Not only do we have that loss to waste heat, but also some of the energy is used for things that can't be digested and used by something on up the food chain. For example, plants using photosynthesis to make glucose, okay, that's great for energy. Not so easy to get the energy if that's tied up into cellulose as wood. Some things can digest it, but it's a lot of work. So you have things going to there. Also, some of that energy goes into other biological processes used up in different ways.